Greetings from Boston. My name is Aaron Knapp, and welcome to Tennis Talk Daily. I hope everyone is doing wonderfully. We are covering the Madrid Open, and there are already some significant developments. Most notably, Novak Djokovic was able to get the better of Nishikori in their opening round match. Final score 7-5, 6-4. To be sure, the win rested on a number of unforced errors from Nishikori, but in general, the match saw Djokovic in fairly good form. It's somewhat promising for him going forward, but we'll just have to see. He's a hard guy to depend on these days, but we'll keep a close eye on him. He's of some use to us for certain purposes in this tournament. In other news, Diego Schwartzman beat Adrian Mannarino. Dusan Lajovic beat Karen Khachanov in something of an upset. Richard Gasquet beat Thomas Berdych. Benoit Paire staged something of an upset, beating Luca Pouille. Denis Shapovalov beat Tennis Sandgren. Milos Raonic beat Nicholas Kicker. Tomorrow we will see the Evgeny Donskoy versus Stefanos Tsitsipas match, which will be interesting, and I will report and comment on that. If Tsitsipas gets through, as we said yesterday, he will face Alexander Zverev, who is on a wave of confidence coming out of the Munich win. So, lots more coming up at Madrid. Subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. What I wanted to talk about today was essentially viewer comments to my last couple of videos about grunting and also about bringing back grass as a tennis surface. So that's what I want to do today. We had some really great comments in general. Thank you so much for your viewership, folks. I love having these vigorous discussions. I believe very strongly in the propositions I make in these videos, but I very much appreciate that some of you have contrasting views. I want to hear your views. You are invited to the discussion so long as we can keep it civil and try to minimize the name calling and just keep it to the substance of what we're saying rather than getting into sort of ad hominem attacks. So that's the agenda. Again, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Let's talk tennis. With respect to the issue of excessive grunting in professional tennis matches, I was somewhat surprised to see that a couple people in the comments felt the need to essentially justify this practice. They believe it's right and good that grown men, professional tennis players, are essentially screaming and yelling on the court. Grunting is not the right term, to be sure. It doesn't go far enough to describe what's happening. This is yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs during the course of a point in a professional tennis match. But I had to remind myself, I should actually expect that there would be a few people because, again, this is a normalized practice. People think it's okay, and Rafael Nadal has been the chief agent in normalizing this outrageous and wrong and offensive practice. Now, I'm not talking about occasional grunts. I'm not talking about players who grunt a little bit on their first serve or occasionally will grunt with a ground stroke. No, I'm talking about the habitual, excessive grunters, the ones that scream at the top of their lungs for virtually the whole match. Those are the people I'm talking about. Sosa, Carballes Baena, Rafa Nadal, and there are many others. That practice, that conduct is offensive, and I stand on that proposition. I shouldn't be surprised that some of you disagree because Rafa has done so much to normalize it, but I don't care what Rafa's done. The practice is wrong. The conduct is wrong. It's a moral violation of the rules, or a violation of moral rules, if you ask me. There needs to be a decibel limit that's enforced. And for all the reasons I discussed in the last video, this practice is just very offensive and wrong, and really, in a way, represents all that's wrong in the sport of tennis, because it says something about the game that the players have to do that. Now, I made a connection between grunting or yelling and two-handers, and there does seem to be a connection there. The prominent grunters, the progenitors of that conduct, Connors, Nadal, a bit with Djokovic, and a number of other people, they've all been two-handers, and it sort of makes sense because that is a shot that is all about strength. It's a muscular shot. There's no touch in that shot. There's no real skill or ingenuity required to hit the two-handed backhand. It's just a test of strength, and that's what Rafa has turned it into. That's what Djokovic has turned it into, and a number of other players. And it makes sense that the big grunts, the big yells, would be coming from the players who employ this very muscularized shot. So I had a comment from a viewer who pointed out some one-handed backhand players who purportedly grunt. Tom Deverson points out Stan Wawrinka, Dominic Thiem, Dutra Silva. Wawrinka and Thiem are not in the same category as Nadal and Sosa and all the rest. It's not even close. They're basically occasional grunters, and what they do is merely grunt. They don't yell. Dutra Silva is a one-hander who I think may very well provide an exception that proves the rule. He's an exception, but it proves the rule, I think, that the two-handers are the real culprits here, and it makes sense. But in any case, it's a form of bullying. It disadvantages the opponent, and it must be banned. The rule must be enforced, and umpires must call these violations. And if they do, it will change. The practices will change. The conduct will change. And it won't hurt the tennis players doing the grunting. They'll still be able to play tennis at the level they were playing before. They don't need to grunt. It's a choice. Grunting and yelling and screaming on the court is a choice they make. They make it for tactical reasons sometimes. They make it for other reasons. Other times, maybe it's just like a lucky charm. They think they're going to hit the ball better if they scream at the top of their lungs while doing it. Doesn't really make sense to me. It strikes me as a good way to exhaust yourself during the course of a match, or maybe increase your exposure to injury. But they do what they want to do there. It is a choice. It does have consequences. But most of all, it's morally wrong. And I don't care what the rules say. It's morally wrong to disrupt your opponent and to essentially bully your opponent with that kind of screaming and yelling. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Finally, I wanted to touch on the issue of bringing back grass. One viewer by the name of Sridada Vishruth comments that he believes more grass court tournaments would mean more success for the servebots, which would be worse for the game than more baseline play encouraged by the slower courts. And I think that's an honest comment. Of course, Wimbledon did experience what it perceived to be a problem with servebots in 2001 and slowed down their surfaces. But my response to this comment is that I don't think servebots have been doing well at Wimbledon in many, many years. Now, one counter response is that's because they slowed down the surface. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. We'll never know. It's kind of a counterfactual in a way. But the reality is that the big Wimbledon champions throughout history have not tended to be servebots, and we don't have any good examples recently of servebots doing well at Wimbledon. Or on the other grass court tournaments, think about John Isner. I think John Isner is probably one of the best examples of a serve bot. Well, I don't think he's been performing too well at Wimbledon. There's Milos Raonic. I don't know if I'd call him a serve bot necessarily, but I'm just not sure this is a good reason to essentially confine grass to 10% of the tournaments on the tour. I think there can be more grass. Grass doesn't have to dominate in the way that it used to, but there needs to be more grass, and there should be basically as many grass tournaments as clay tournaments, if you ask me. So great comments. Thank you so much. I am going to have much more commentary on Madrid. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Thanks again so much for your viewership, and I look forward to speaking with you next time. Bye-bye.